So now, Master DK's interpretation here, it is this enforced quiet which brings about the true alignment. Okay, now we're toward the later stages of this process. We enter into the axillary process. So we've seen what the problem is, rushing hither and thither, and not listening to the words, be still, but rushing from point to point. Now we're ready to realize through a new way of being the work of the silent weaver, and also to identify with and become the silent weaver. We're ready for that now, and we have not been in the past. So alignment, that's the very first thing. And this is the quiet, not of meditation, but of living. And so very interesting, because the second ray type achieved the alignment through pondering, meditation, reflection, right? But not the third ray type, no. This is a different kind of activity. A different kind of activity supervenes. And instead of rushing about, one actually sees through the unconsciousness of Maya. Maya is doing things for no reason, just doing. Why'd you do that? Oh, it's just a habit. I don't know. What did I do? I was unconscious of what I was doing. So this is dispersing the Maya and becoming conscious of what one does, instead of doing it simply on the basis of habit or impulse. So what was it that created the alignment, maybe the driving one-pointedness of the first ray? He didn't really say so particularly what created that type of alignment, but for the second ray, meditation, and for the third ray, the quiet of living. You know, in other words, we're told here, or the soul is saying here, stop living noisily. So many people in our civilization are running about, talking, creating idle words. Well, there are selfish words and cruel, hateful words as well, but the idle words can each produce effect, we are told. Idle words will each produce effect. And I suppose the third ray type at first, with the throat center overstimulated, talking all the time, or at least under the influence of Mercury, is producing many idle, useless, non-applicable forms. So it is quiet. Basically what DK is saying, if you follow, if the third ray type follows, be still, and alignment with the soul will be produced. Now we really are dealing with the aspirant here. We are moving, you know, from the, well, from a difficult situation and the aspiration to get out of that situation. We're moving into something quite different now. The aspirant upon the third ray is apt to waste much energy in perpetuating the glamorous forms with which he persistently surrounds himself. Now this is not the magical process. Because with true magic there will not be a continued need for the creator to perpetuate what he has created. Let's say, I keep on using the example, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is perpetuated by the love which others have for it. Beethoven is since long gone, ever since 1827 or so, not been with us unless he's coming back maybe in the great Fourth Ray Age. He's not perpetuating his form, and yet it is perpetuated. But other people say, I created this, so I have to keep it going, you know. A failing business, I made it. Oh, it's failing. Oh, I have to keep it going, you know. Not learning how to detach from that which we have created. So, you know, we have to trust. We have to, true magic, let's see, go back here for a second. Yeah, we have to trust, which is very difficult for the third-rate type. He doesn't trust much. Have to trust that if the form created is useful, the environment which it is meant to serve will perpetuate it. And one does not have to continue to invest one's energies in lost causes, well, that's the sixth-rate type, or in useless forms, that's the third-rate type. How can he achieve his goal, asked the Tibetan, when he is ceaselessly running hither and thither, weaving, manipulating, planning, arranging? How can he achieve his goal? And, you know, this is futility of action, I think. Futility of action, very much so. Well, he manages to get nowhere, because it's almost, it's as if the sense of the true goal is missing, and the love of the activity to get to the goal. See, the goal is obscured in the activity engaged in to get to the obscured goal. Let's just say that action takes the place of achievement of the objective. So the means becomes more important than the end. So he manages to get nowhere, says the Tibetan. Now really the sense of futility hovers over the third-ray type. In other words, all I have done leads nowhere. That is, has done no good, has not achieved my end. I've thrown so much energy, so much money, so much activity into all this, and where am I? I have not achieved my goal because it's not a well-planned, progressive movement towards a clear objective, clearly held in mind, but rather a frenzy of activity which blocks one's own way. We can call it that. A frenzy of activity which blocks one's own way by tangling oneself up in the energies one is using, or in the objects which one is perpetuating. So ever he is occupied with the distant objective, because he does have an abstract tendency. There is an abstract tendency and not a realistic look at the immediate condition. So oftentimes bewildered by the actuality of the immediate, and hoping, wishing, is a bit like the sixth ray in this way, for some a grand climax to all of his activity, but he loses the way because he does not engage in the proper steps along the way. So let's put that there, that he does not engage in the proper and profitable steps, concrete steps along the way. Of course, a more highly developed type and one who has absorbed the other rays as kind of antidotes to the wildness of the third ray can move forward properly, because love of the ordered process has come into his life, and maybe some fifth ray has come in, and he can concentrate on the immediate next step instead of on the grand and glorious and distant horizon. The word glory is associated with various of the rays. Glorious creations is one connected with the third ray. There is the love of being bound for glory on the sixth ray, and the fourth ray has it too, with let the outer glory pass away, and the beauty of the inner light reveal the one. Then there is the second ray, the displayer of glory. Well, maybe we can find it in relation to all the rays, but some of them have a particular connection with this concept of the full release, coherent and magnificent release of energy in a way that almost blinds or overcomes the senses of those who observe. So there is this abstract thing, looking into the great beyond, about what's going on in cosmos, what's going on in the higher planes, perhaps, once a certain stage of evolution is reached. Not what's here, absent from the here, we might say. The third ray type is absent from the here and now, and is interested in the eventual and in the distant, which has to be better, so he thinks, than the here and now. So he's ever occupied with the distant objective. I mean, you can imagine some of the great astrophysicists and philosophers sort of scanning the great abstract, wondering about things they can never touch, but theorizing about them, what's going on here? Well, maybe I didn't tie my shoelaces. Maybe I forgot to eat. Maybe I'm wearing one sock different from another sock. The sort of Einstein complex, pondering the great beyond and the world of energies, the world of higher thoughts and abstractions, and ignoring the here and now, as DK says, hardly bothering to balance his checkbook, as he says. So ever occupied with the distant objective, with that which may materialize in some distant and dim and distant future. The word may is important because, there is the possibility thinking. In some dim and distant future. So here we have a bit of the Neptune for vagueness, don't we? Neptune has a trident. It's got a three-pronged end. It's connected with the third ray and with matter. Water, Neptune, water, matter, third ray, okay? So Neptune for vagueness, materialized in some dim and distant future, and he fails ever to achieve the immediate objective because he just, what can we say, does not pay attention to details. And without that close attention to detail, then the immediate path cannot be trodden, the immediate structure cannot be built, the immediate relationships, the foundation cannot be built securely. Cannot be built securely. He is often the expression and example of waste energy. Well, activity. I had a wonderful uncle, like a father to me, and he said, Michael, motion is not action. So I guess I was displaying those tendencies in early days. So simply to be in motion does not mean that you are acting in any intelligent way which is going to take you toward your goal. In fact, it may inhibit the reaching of the goal. You may exhaust yourself. So self-exhaustion, we might say, can be the result of waste activity to no good plan or purpose. He weaves for the future. How grand and glorious it will be, forgetting that his tiny bit of weaving is an intrinsic part of the greater whole, and that time may enter in and frustrate, go oft astray, off the track. We plan, well, there's an old saying, Gott tracht und man lacht. It's the other way around. Man tracht und Gott lacht. Man plans and God laughs. So, it's the story of the milkmaid, too. The foolish milkmaid, carrying her milk and planning her future. I will sell the milk, and then I will do this with the money, and this will lead me to this. And she has a grand and glorious future before her, and she trips and stumbles on a stone and spills all the milk. So that's the story there. The foolish milkmaid. And there's another one about also the one who counted his chickens before they were hatched. And the same kind of idea, really. One thing will lead to another, will lead to another, lead to another. I'm scheming, I'm planning, I'm thinking of the distant, and all, boom. And I fail in the present. And my whole concatenation, my whole chain of eventualities just vanishes in the air. Castles in the air. Master Morya tells us we are tired of castles in the air. So those who are always building for the future and not paying attention. So in other words, this type does not pay attention to the present. Of course, this can be modified, depending. There's a more material part of the third ray, which really, sticks to business, as it were. And if the other rays are there to assist, then all the plans can materialize because sufficient caution in the present moment is taken. So he weaves for the future, forgetting that his tiny bit of weaving, it's just his own. He forgets that there's a weaver behind the entire process, and he's not identified with that weaver, just with his own weavings. His tiny bit of weaving is an intrinsic part of the great whole. Have you got a business plan? Have you got a game plan? What's your strategy? All that is an intrinsic part of the great whole, and the time may enter in and frustrate by change of circumstance his carefully laid plans and dreams of earlier years. Well, man is not yet master of the science of cycles, and unpredicted cycles may enter in and frustrate. So until there is all knowledge on the third subplane, SUB, subplane, sub-PL, SBSL, oh heck, subplane. On the third subplane of the third systemic plane, the atmic, there will be insufficient knowledge to weave with full cognizance of all the energies and cycles involved. And therefore futility, and that's the word, that's the not manifesting what has been planned, not achieving, ACH, i.e., not getting anywhere, and being, as they say, all over the place. but finally getting nowhere, accomplishing nothing. Okay, right. So let us see, can this be antidoted? Can this be offset? To offset this, he must stand quiet at the center and for a time, at any rate, cease from weaving, cease from thinking, planning, speaking, creating forms. So we already saw that the forced quiet produced alignment. And in this quietude, there will come a crisis. There will come alignment, and as a result of the alignment, there will come a crisis. Excuse me. He must no longer make opportunities for himself. Well, DK asked us to make crises for ourselves, but this is different. This is out there in the field of business, trying to drum up business by making opportunities, by doing this and that, which will bring advantage to you. And this would also work out in the realm of thought, to cease theorizing and receive the impression of truth. Cease theorizing and instead receive the impressions of truth. Impressions of truth. Intuitively. Initiatory. Intuitively. So, stillness. Meeting the opportunities which come his way, a very different thing than generating opportunity, and applying himself to the need to be met. So, observing carefully the environment and detecting the need to be met and the opportunity to meet it, instead of rushing forth to generate new circumstances. So it's the study of the circumstances that are, a study of the circumstance that is, and meeting it with well-ordered, intelligent action. This is not so well-ordered. Okay, well-ordered, intelligent action. So this is a different, very different matter, DK tells us, and swings into activity of very different psychology. Waiting instead of rushing forth. Now, DK has not really given the integrative word for the sixth ray. I've suggested restraint. One of my associates, Zachary Lansdowne, has suggested dissociation. I think he has a good point, and DK does mention the need for the sixth ray type to dissociate himself from the objects of his devotion. But here there is a kind of a dissociation from the tendency to generate new circumstances filled with new opportunities, but instead to be more sensitive. Now, you know how it is? The first ray type has to be sensitive. The third ray type has to be sensitive too, to allow the reception of impression, to get through all of that usual flurry of activity. So this is the allowing of impression to get through to one's consciousness instead of being deflected by all that activity and thought. You know, sometimes we can be so very busy, so generative of forms that the real truth can't get through, and the real need of the environment, even the reality of the environment just can't get through. So standing still and allowing true impression, and also becoming sensitive to the need which the environment presents. And we can, sensitivity is needed by the first ray type, maybe by all those on the hard line rays. Being sensitive to the need which the environment presents. This is a very different matter and swings into activity, a very different psychology. When he can do this and be willing to achieve divine idleness from the angle of the glamoured third ray attitude, glamoured, the attitude which is incapable of perceiving truth and which distorts truth, he will discover that he has suddenly achieved alignment. We've said a lot about alignment. There's so much going along the many lines that alignment must be difficult for the third ray type to achieve. So there's so much emphasis on the many and on variety that alignment is particularly difficult. For difficult, DIF. Different? No, the IFC, maybe that. Difficult for the third ray type to achieve. I've sometimes said, well, can the third ray type achieve sacrifice? Because there's always so many ways of getting out of or slipping away from the need to sacrifice. The second ray type has the third ray petal unfold more slowly. The third ray, the third ray type, first ray type has the love petal unfold more slowly, and the third ray type, I think, has the sacrifice petal, the one connected with the first ray, unfold more slowly. So this alignment naturally produces a crisis. If we achieve alignment, we're going to get soul influence, and when we have soul influence, there's going to be a clash. So under soul influence, there will be a clash between the way of the soul and the way of the personality. A dissonance which is perceived as crisis. So always after alignment, the first ray type, is not spoken much about how he achieves the alignment, but he's so one-pointed. And then he one-pointedly pursues his quite selfish and destructive objectives that the crisis comes quickly as a counterblow to his one-pointedly aligned methods of producing destruction. But finally, when everything settles down and look up along the line and not along the many lines which in the space of eons you have woven, there comes through the soul perspective which clashes with his own thoughts. And we can just say in general here that clash induces crisis. And how is this crisis characterized? By a quality of deep distress. This is a period of difficulty and of real concern because it dawns upon his consciousness how useless, relatively, are his weavings and his manipulations, and how much of a problem, a disturbance, he has presented to other weavers. Learn to stand silent, quiet, and unafraid. You are disturbing. Your noise is disturbing the other creators. You're somehow interfering with them. You're making waves, So I'm getting nowhere, and I'm making waves. I am getting nowhere and making disturbing waves for others, hence not appreciated. So there is a lowering in one's own estimation. And also the quality, well, first distress, and then a more positive reaction, the quality which might be expressed as the determination to stand in spiritual being and to comprehend the significance of the ancient aphorism given by third-ray aspirants. Well, we often hear the statement, stand still. It's hard for the third-ray type to stand. They're a dodger, they go here, they go there, they duck, they dodge, they go around, they move. They affirm their being through movement. Can one affirm one's being through standing? Perhaps. So we do see, however, that this crisis is characterized by two qualities. What has happened? The light has come in as a result of the crisis. The drawing near of the soul has produced soul light. And this light deepens the crisis. Sometimes when you're looking at these stages, achlary, alignment, crisis, light, revelation, integration, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. There are loops between them. Alignment, crisis, crisis, alignment, alignment, crisis, crisis, light, light, crisis, light, and so forth. They reinforce each other. The more the light, the deeper the crisis. The deeper the crisis and the tension produced by it, the more one draws near the soul, the greater the light. So we do not have specifically and only a linear approach toward the center. So first, the quality of deep distress, and it's always been this way, and then something more positive. I think this was also given in the second ray. The realization with the second ray of one's defects. He actually, with the second ray, he gave us 6 revelations in the light. So with the second ray, we were given 6 steps in concerning that which light revealed. And towards the latter part of it, it became revelation. Here we're given 2, and the determination to stand in spiritual being. The weaver stands. Silently the weaver stands. The weaver stands. Behind the forms the weaver stands, and silently he weaves. Okay. So, and here is the attempt to comprehend the significance of the ancient aphorism, cease from thy doing, walk not on the path until thou hast learnt the art of standing still. Study the spider, my brother, study the spider, brother, entangled not in his own web, as thou art today entangled in thine own. These must be very shocking words, or revelatory words, to the third ray type. The spider is very skillful in negotiating the pattern that he has woven, and doesn't get all tangled up in it. The spider is skillful in passing through and over the pattern web he has woven, and does not become entangled. Maybe some of you have the experience of getting on the internet and just going surfing, one thing to another, rush not from point to point, but going from point to point until you don't even know where you started from and how you got where you are now. You weren't going any place. Really, you were wandering. You were going from place to place as you were prompted to do by your interest or desire, and before you know it, where were you? Certainly not at any particular goal. That's quite different from research undertaken deliberately on the web. Okay. Study the spider, brother, entangled not in his own web as thou art today, entangled in thine own. And it's be still. Cease from thy doing. This is be still. And do not wander along the path, going this way and that way, because you're not really on the path at all, until you have learned the art of standing still and receiving a true impression of the next step. In this stillness, you can receive a true impression of the next step forward. So this crisis evokes understanding. It's the crisis of perceived futility. The crisis of perceived futility. And it evokes understanding, which, as many will recognize, is an aspect of light. So there is an understanding. Light is thrown upon how the entanglement occurred. It's thrown upon how the entanglement occurred through excessive activity and thought form generation and form generation. So light is cast upon the tangle, and this will help. The aspirant slowly at first anyway, slowly begins to work with the plan as it is. The voice chants forth, or the voice is heard. It's in the law of repulse, the same way. It's study the pattern in the skies, is how it goes. It's all in the law of repulse, but okay, you know, it might as well be here as well. Look from out thy window, weaver, and see the pattern in the skies, the model of the plan, the color and the beauty of the whole. Destroy the carpet which you have for ages wrought. It does not meet your need. Then weave again, weaver. Weave in the light of day. Weave as you see the plan. So often these, the final stanzas of the law of repulse slot in very nicely here to this stage of crisis, and what to do about the crisis. We might say the law of repulse tells us what to do about the crisis. The voice proclaims, look from out thy window, look at the larger picture. And don't just be preoccupied with the contents within your room, but look out the window. DK actually gave some kind of antidote to one of his third-ray soul disciples who was filled with glamour and illusion, but had a window in the room. And the window was pretty foggy at first, and the disciple had to clear away the fog, maybe from his own breath, from his own excitement, his own desire. Clear away, stand back, clear away the window and look through the window and see the pattern in the skies, see what's actually going on out there instead of what you think is going on. This crisis evokes understanding, which is, as many will recognize, an aspect of light. So the distress of being futile, the distress of being futile, evokes understanding of one's entanglement and enmeshment. And slowly the aspirant begins to work with the plan as it is. He looks from out his window and not as he thinks it is. That's the problem. We lay our thought upon reality. And then self-congratulatory, in a self-congratulatory manner, take our thought for the reality we have failed to perceive. And as he works in the light, as he works in the light of understanding, revelation comes. And this is, the DK is giving a specific sequence here now. He doesn't always do that. In the secondary method, he didn't tell us when revelation actually came, but the revelation of light, or the impression of light, led to revelation. So here, as he works, let us say, in the light of understanding, revelation comes, and he sees clearly what he has to do, and let us say, in the larger context. Usually this entails, first of all, a disentangling and release from his own ideas. And, you know, the unknotting of the unknotting of the Gordian knot, which we have created through our own irresponsible creativity. Or, you know, through our misinterpretation of the universe. It all appears knotted, and we don't understand what came from where. But I'm not sure. Is there an unknotting? Yes, there is an unknotting of the Gordian knot. And this process takes much time, being commensurate with the time wasted in building up the age-long glamour, let's call it the age-long misinterpretation. Age-long. The third-ray aspirant is always slower to learn. You can kind of say that about the sixth-ray aspirant as well. It's always slower to learn than the second ray, just as the first-ray aspirant learns more rapidly than the second ray. There's an analogy here with the analogy of solar systems, analogy of the duration of solar systems based upon rays 1, 2, 3. Those based upon the first ray are shortest in duration, second ray a bit longer, third ray longest. So we move from a slow process, but at the end it turns fast, DK will tell us. The third ray aspirant is always slower to learn. So how did we get ourselves in this tangle? How did we get ourselves in this tangle? How did I get all knotted up, as it said? When, however, he has learnt to be quiet and still and unafraid, let us not forget that one, he can achieve his goal with greater rapidity because, let's just say, when not entangled, the third ray is the, let's call it, the ray of speed, running about hither and thither. And I think the first ray type, second ray, not second ray types, sixth ray types are involved with speed, you know, athletically seeing the goal, running towards it, giving one's all in the particular athletic event. I wouldn't be surprised if third ray types are involved in what you might call the dash, you know, able to achieve a short-term goal with great speed. Later, the strategy can come in and the plan for the long run. The second ray aspirant has to achieve the quiet which is ever present at the heart of the storm, or the center of a whirlpool, and this is done through detachment and standing back from the storm, disengaging, abstracting, retreating. How does it say there? Release thyself from all that stands around, for it is not for thee. So look to me, I am the one who builds, sustains, and draws thee on and up. Look unto me with eyes of love, and seek the path which leads from the outer circle to the point. So there is the detachment there and finding the still center. The still center. Isn't it good when he gives us the contrast between the rays? Some of the contrasts he may give, some we have to notice. The third ray aspirant has to achieve the quiet, which is like that of a quiet mill pond. Which is, this is reflective of reality, which had been repelled by activity. He says humorously here, which he much dislikes to do. So what do we have so far? We have enforced quiet, leading to alignment, alignment leading to the impression of the soul which reveals futility, and the embarrassment of being a trouble to others. This is also the case for the sixth ray. There are a lot of things in common between the second and fourth, and between the third and sixth. And then one could ask, and wherein are the points in common between those great pairs of opposites, the first ray and the second ray? But maybe they also can be found. So alignment is here. And then this alignment leads to leading to the pressure of the soul, which reveals futility and embarrassment, and this is a crisis. This is a crisis, very uncomfortable, being nowhere and not knowing how to get where one needs to go, being nowhere and all entangled, and rebelling against this non-accomplishment. And in the state of crisis, as the soul draws nearer, let's see, as the soul draws nearer, and as the one line is formed of the many, the light of understanding breaks forth. And in this light, the method of disentanglement, a personal matter, is revealed. And the slow disentanglement proceeds. And as it continues, the glamour and illusion subside, and a bigger picture is seen, and the man knows, and let's just say, and it is what? Revealed. Revealed to the man what he must do within this larger context. He begins to sense a larger plan, and he seeks to cooperate with it. And doing so in the quiet of living, rather than running hither and thither. In other words, no more waste action. And this will lead to integration. Probably he'll tell us that in just a moment. Having, however, learned to do it, the integration, yes. Having, however, learned to do it, the integration takes place. The third ray, when he is still and truly can reflect the plan, let's say, when, like a mill pond, he is still and truly reflects the plan, then integration of the soul's energy system and the energy of the personality, energy system of the personality, occurs. And integration takes place, and there is, let's say, right and accurate interplay between the soul and personality, and that which the soul knows becomes that which the personality also knows. So the man stands ready to play his part in light within the divine plan. So that is the process, that is the progress. In each case, what we have to do is look at the relationship of the formula, the integrated word, and how it is that the disciple passes through the axillary process and finally achieves his integration. It's different in each case, and when we are advising people who we may find in one of these stages or another, we have to see who they are, where they stand, what the next step might be, and help to convey to them some sense of the process in which they are engaged. It is interesting to note that the first result of the use of the three formulas can each be summed up in one word for the sake of clarity. The first result. First result. This is not the final. But it has some final implications, because it occurs at a couple of different phases and at a couple of different levels. These words embody the first and simplest steps upon the way of at-one-ment, and maybe some of the clearest too. Some of the clearest, and they epitomize for us the process, they encapsulate for us the process which the different ray types must follow. Of course, we haven't really been given the word for the 6th and 7th ray, and we'll see. You know, I chose a couple when I wrote Tapestry a long time ago, and there may be other alternatives. These words first embody the first and simplest steps upon the way of at-one-ment. They embody the simplest aspects of the necessary technique, but worth remembering when we need a summary. Worth remembering when we need a summary. So, Ray 1, inclusion, standing with the arms outstretched in the form of the cross, embracing those who may come, establishing the right relations, and learning somehow to be a willful servant of the energy of love. Ray 2, centralization, detach, go to the quiet center, detach from all of your involvements on the periphery of life, where you are taking forms for realities and you're engaged magnetically with all of these forms, so you hardly can find your center. But you know, the Ray 1 word is a kind of a second ray word, and the Ray 2 word is a kind of a first ray word. When it comes to the third ray, we have stillness, and as a result of this stillness, there can be a registration of that which the soul knows. There can be a registration of the light for the disentanglement, a closer approach to the soul and its knowledge, and then a direct understanding of the soul's knowledge and of the method of bringing that knowledge into manifestation. The stillness leads to all these good things. Centralization leads to that proper magnetic center which attracts others as souls to itself, and then moves forward with those attracted others towards the great point of centralization, which is attracting the centralized disciple, the centralized master in the ashram, the centralized Christ, the centralized Sanat Kumara, and on and on and on. Always there is a great attractor to attract the centralized being. The above will suffice for the techniques of integration of the three major rays, and we will now take the formulas which will embody the techniques of integration for the four minor rays and glimpse the possibilities which they may unfold. So we have covered something of importance for the three major rays, we will emphasize in connection with each of them the same 5 stages of the technique we are studying. So these words, though simple, are epitomes and useful in remembering that which is definitely necessary in each process. Without these particular attitudes of mind and of consciousness, the higher parts of the formula could not be fulfilled. The consummations in integration could not be fulfilled, and the eventual fusion could not be fulfilled. So we will emphasize alignment, the crisis of evocation. We have to remember that the soul is evoked. The light which reveals the problem and the next step ahead. Whoop. Haste makes waste. Revealing the problem and the next step ahead. The revelation of the plan, we would say. Right. Revelation of the plan and integration not only of the personality itself, but of the personality with the soul. So 5 steps, and every one of us should be able, at the end of studying these things, to know what is the first condition in which the not yet integrated person finds himself, what the word, the state which must be achieved, the word that goes forth telling how it must be achieved, the particular epitomizing word which essentializes the whole process, and the 5 steps which lead to integration through particular types of expression of these steps for each one of the rays. We should know that, and especially be able to apply that to our own ray, soul ray, and to see where we are with that process, within that process. At the same time, we will bear in mind that the alignment with which we have hitherto been occupying ourselves is that of a form of expression, and that this is achieved through discipline, meditation, and service. This is simply the alignment with which we have hitherto been occupying ourselves is that of a form of expression, and that this is achieved through discipline, meditation, and service, contact with the soul. But these techniques of integration, however, refer, and so occasional contact, I suppose, but these techniques of integration, however, refer to the establishing of a continuity of consciousness within the aligned forms. In other words, let's say, always knowing what is the soul's perspective on whatever may be happening. We say, what's going on in the world of consciousness, or the world, WL, world of consciousness, What's going on in the world of consciousness? And in any of the vehicles which are in alignment. So this is leading to a fusion of the consciousness of the soul with the consciousness of the personality until they become one. So the fusion process is really, in a way, a continuation of the integration process, and in the book they're listed, one after another. Therefore, we begin with alignment in these cases, and we do not end with it. So, in our average spiritual disciplines, alignment is a great objective. But we begin here with the alignment achieved and work our way to a true integration with the soul and as the soul, because a type of identification can come in. Okay.